Kyle here, welcoming all you friends of the feather to another season of Indians baseball. A lot of new faces in Chief Wahoo's tribe this year as they take on the defending American League champs, the New York Yankees. And hopefully we'll have some of the names that go with those faces before their first at-bat. Anyway, listen to the roar of the crowd as the Indians take the field. Yes, sir, they love this club here in Cleveland. On into the windup in his first offering. Just a bit outside. He tried the corner and missed.
Oh, shit.
Hello, Tribe fans. Welcome back to Major League Baseball. Sort of. Paid attendance today is 1,412. Some of them were driven away by that little 10-run first inning the Red Sox put up. Take over, Monty. I'm in the bag.
For the Indians, one run on, let's see, one hit. That's all we got. One goddamn hit.
You can't say goddamn on the air.
Don't worry, nobody's listening anyway.
Say! The Indians win it! The Indians win it! Oh my God, the Indians win it!
Skip, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Your sound is excellent.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Guitar. Yeah. Thank you by the way, for agreeing to this. I really, really appreciate it.
Well, you know, I had an orgy with the Olsen twins, and I thought, what's more important? I think Darek is. You know, so.
but I figured like I said, this poor man has probably been asked by 7,000 people for an interview,
yep.
and when you said you were interviewed on, I'm like, I totally get it. But I said, you know what? I'm going to show them what the website's about.
You had quality stuff. You're not a fly-by-night guy, so I said, okay, I'll do it.
Yeah, and it's funny, Skip. Like, I'm so happy you said that because when I do reach out to people, they always assume it's the fly-by-nighters, and I lose out on so many good opportunities. It's like It's like people don't take the time just to click and look, like a 2-minute search. But it is what it is, Skip. It is what it is.
Yep.
Skip, let me ask you, where are you from?
Well, originally from Joliet, Illinois. Grew up there. That's it's kind of a distant suburb of Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And God, I don't know what we're known for anymore. It used to be the prison, Stateville Penitentiary.
Okay.
Was in Joliet. It's not even in Joliet anymore. I don't know if it's Lockport or whatever now. But yeah, there for a long time. I lived in the city, Chicago for a good while. Lived in LA for a little while.
Were you an arts kid, Skip? Were you somebody that loved movies, loved music? Because I mean, each of us grew up in the best generation. Like I feel like our generations are similar. You know. Well,
we were awfully lucky to have what we have. I'd hate to be a kid today trying to pay for college.
Yes.
But my first love, I mean, I always loved music, but my first performing love was magic. And I did tricks at a few parties for money when I was 12. I would also do shows for the neighborhood in my basement.
Nice.
When I was even younger, charge them maybe a nickel to get in and a couple pennies for popcorn or something like that.
Yeah.
And then music became more and more important. And I was in choirs, and I was vice president of the a cappella choir when I was a senior in Joliet West. And then I started my first rock band in 1964. I was 16. Wow. And I played in a lot of bands. They kept getting better and better until 1970. I was with a group called Trilogy, also from Joliet. We recorded an incredible album on Mercury Records, and it didn't get the push we had hoped for. They were more worried at the time of making Buddy Miles and Rod Stewart popular. They're trying to break those guys. Rod Stewart wasn't a big deal yet. So they just kind of let us fall by the wayside, and then I wound up another band, and then in 1972 I joined Chicago's New Colony 6, which had a couple big national records, number of local ones. I replaced the lead guy that left, and I was the front man, second lead guitarist, and did that for a couple years. And we had went as far as we thought we could go. It was the 10th year of the band, and thought, it's time to give it a rest. So I started working solo in nightclubs, playing acoustic guitar, singing, whatever. And I get a call in March of 75 from my drummer from Trilogy, who was now in Minneapolis, and he said, well, we're looking for a guy who can play acoustic guitar and finger picking and sing some backup vocal. Oh, Bernie, man, I'm so wiped out with bands. I need a little rest. It's Olivia Newton-John band.
Wow.
When do you want me? I'll be there.
She is amazing. I mean, she's stunning, talented. Yes. I remember a couple years back, Skip, maybe 2023, where Travolta was doing the in memoriam for the Oscars, and he says, he mentioned the words "hopelessly devoted" before he did it. It was just such a sweet moment.
Sure.
Skip, talk about your relationship with her. Was she a really good quality person that everyone seems to think she is or was? Sorry.
Completely.
Yeah.
Awesome human. We had a very nice working relationship. And on my end, what's not to like? Yeah. I mean, she's gorgeous. She was the most popular singer in the world at that time. And she sang awesome. This wasn't just, she was great looking. Wasn't just the looks. She could sing. Right. And she sang great every night. And I had a mad crush on her the whole 4 years. Even when I would run into her decades later, I'd say, hi, Olivia, how are you? I couldn't get over being intimidated by her. She had so much going for herself, and sweet, and it seems like we'd always be on the road for my birthday, and she'd have the audience sing happy birthday to me. And
oh, that's so sweet. Yeah.
She was just awesome. Just as wonderful as you would hope she would be. Now, later years, I would bring my wife to come, meet her and spend some time with her and so on. She said, boy, she's so down to earth and she really loves you, which was a nice thing to hear from, an observer. And I cherish that. And when I heard she was, one morning I wake up and I grab the guitar that I had used in her band. It was an old Ovation. It was strung with, it's called Nashville tuning or high strung tuning. So 4 of the strings are an octave above normal. It's a 6-string guitar, but it has a very chimey sound that was used on a number of her hits. And her producer and guitarist and main songwriter, John Farah, would teach me the parts that he had played on the record, and they sounded fabulous. So I said, I'm going to get that out because I'm doing a 70s Heroes of Rock show, and I have a girl come in singing some Olivia tunes. I said, damn it, I'm going to use that guitar and get that sound. I take a nap. I wake up. All these texts. Did you hear? She died that day. And I thought she was going to keep fighting forever. This was her 3rd time with cancer. And she kept fighting. I know she was not doing chemo this last time. She was doing radiation and all kinds of health food. The last time I saw her, I came into her dressing room with a Coke can. And she said, stop drinking that shit. She said, that'll kill you. So she did everything she could. Eventually, she couldn't beat it for the 3rd time. She still sounded really good in that last concert that I heard her. And I think she had her energy was a little bit down. She's a little bit limited, so she didn't jump around the stage quite as much as she used to. But she still sounded great. She looked great. The audience loved her. She did a shout out to me in the middle of the show and thanked me for some flowers that I had sent her. And she was just the best. And she's sorely missed. And after that, during that time, I'm trying to get a record deal. I'm a singer-songwriter, wrote some great songs, still do once in a while. And back then you didn't start your own label, print your own CDs. I was trying for Capitol Records, and I just didn't get it. They were interested if I didn't use my own songs. They liked my voice. They didn't like my songs. And I was stubborn back then. I said, damn it, I spent all this time and I'm a great songwriter. And so I said no. And so that was it. That was my last chance. And I went on the road the next day with a guy from Greece called Demis Roussos. And he's not big star in never was in the United States, but all around Europe and South America, he's big. So we did 3-4 week tour of Australia where he was big. And I played in his band, and he got a I guess to try to appeal to an American audience, he got an American band and had us dress up in cowboy outfits. And his music was kind of like a sweet version of who's that guy who sang with Willie Nelson on that? The Latin guy, with a very, very handsome Latin guy. To all the girls.
Iglesias?
Yes.
Yeah.
So he's kind of like that, except maybe a little softer. Plus, he was 5'10" and weighed 300 pounds and wore caftans. Odd duck. And we clashed. He was Greek. I was Greek American, and we clashed. We both fancied the same girl singer in the backup band. So we had a little problem there. But he was so weird. He's passed away now, so I can talk about it. The next time I saw him after that, he was on the news as one of the hostages on some flight that was taken over.
Wow.
And I can't tell you which one it was.
Yeah.
It's probably 20, 30 years ago. I don't remember. 20 maybe. And but he was so eccentric. We would do a sound check before the show. You guys, how you got to do sound checks to get your monitors right, the PRA. We would get it all perfect, and then we'd leave to go to dinner. We'd come back. He went in and changed all the settings for all of us, not just for him. He would change your monitor setting, what he thought you should be listening to. He was nuts.
Wow.
I have never felt so normal is when I was working for him in comparison.
It's funny because because I was reading about your life, and when do you go to drama school? Because I know you're
that was after working with Demis Roussos. He drove me to college to study speech and theater. Right then and there, I said, "Boy, I need something different because I'm burnt out." And so I went to Lewis University in Romeoville, which is not that far from Joliet, and they had a great theater program, beautiful theater. And so I went there for 2.5 years. I did a lot of plays. I learned more how to present things on stage, how to speak proper English, all the stuff you need. I starred in a bunch of productions. I was Tony in West Side Story and a bunch of stuff. So you got to start auditioning for things in Chicago. And I did a number of plays. I got an agent. My first union was the Actors Equity. And then eventually, I don't know if it was Major League that got me the Screen Actors Guild, or it was something before that. It might have been a commercial before that. So I got my union cards, and so I was just auditioning for a lot of stuff. I did some commercials and, like I said, plays, and so they had an audition in Chicago for this new movie, Major League, and they wanted me to audition for two things. One was a baseball player from another team who was at bat. And they said, bring your glove and ball so we know you can play, which I could. That wasn't a problem. And then they said, okay, read for Colorman, which was one line. And the original line, I'm sure I can't say on your podcast. I don't want to, but
you can say whatever you like, Skip. It's
okay.
Yeah.
The line was, you can't say fucking on the air. Because Harry Doyle said, is that all we got? One hit? One fucking hit? Now, in between the audition and the movie, they cleaned that up to one goddamn hit. And if you watch it on television, it was one damn hit. So depending, Uecker wasn't comfortable with it. He was doing beer commercials, and I think he thought it might be bad for the image or whatever. And so they cleaned it up a bit. And I thought I blew the audition, but 2 weeks later, I get a call from my agent, and sure enough, I'm Colorman, Monte the Colorman. Yeah. And we shot the first one in Milwaukee at Old Brewer Stadium, County Stadium, which is no longer.
Right.
It was June. I was 40 years old. I wasn't well. Long story, I had insecticide exposure, and I had a lot of years of bad health, but I did my best. And it was just wonderful. And it was written by David S. Ward, his first directing job, however.
Wow.
He had written other movies like the Milagro Beanfields War, I believe, was kind of a big hit, very well respected. Not a comedy though.
Right.
But he's got a great flair for comedy, and this was his story. He grew up in Cleveland, so the story of the Cleveland Indians and the frustration with never, winning the pennant and the World Series, just like me growing up as a Cub fan, forever until 2016 or whatever, when they finally won the pennant, and the World Series.
Yeah.
So this was his kind of acting out his frustration with being a fan of a bad ball club, and he wrote this great script, this great story, and sat me next to Bob Uecker, who Mr. Baseball, I think Johnny Carson gave him that moniker, but he was the star. I was as we say in theater, the foil or the straight man for him to bounce off of. And based on a real life broadcast team somewhere out west, where you have a blustery play-by-play guy and a color man who just doesn't add much, to the broadcast. And David heard it and said, there's some comedy gold there. And I kind of think he was right. So first day of shooting, I don't get a word from David all day long. And I thought, so I go to bed that night. Boy, do I suck. He wouldn't tell me anything. So he comes up to me early the next morning and he says, "Hey, Skip, we just watched The Rushes and you're really funny." And I'm thinking, what a left-handed compliment. I'm really funny. You didn't even watch me for the whole first day of shooting. I think, wow. But now I understand Bob had the majority of the dialogue and the focus and all that. But anyway, we a couple more days. So we shot the whole thing in 3 days, shut down the rest of the production, just focused on us. And, we all thought it was good. Nobody knew it was going to be a hit movie. You couldn't. Like, to us, yeah, this is pretty funny stuff, but that's not a guarantee it's going to be a hit with the public. And sure enough, it opens as #1 in the nation for 2 weeks, and it's been popular non-stop ever since. And we do a sequel 5 years later, not nearly as enjoyable a situation, not as good a movie, obviously, but this time it was November in Baltimore at Camden Yards Stadium, which is a beautiful stadium,
right.
But it's 40 degrees out and we're in a real broadcast booth outside, dressed like it's summer. It finally got to the director, who was ornery through the whole shoot. Finally, halfway through the shoot, he's got the flu so bad, he's got to go to a remote studio and direct us through walkie-talkie for half of the shoot for Major League 2. So we got through it, and but it was so cold. I looked over at Bob. There's this thing in Major League 2 where Harry Doyle he's drinking, and he passes out in the middle of a broadcast, play-by-play, and he says, "Take over, Monty." And I go, "Me?" And I look over at him, and I can see, because he's wearing just a tank top, his muscles are spasming from the cold.
So cold. Yeah,
it's so cold, and he's trying to stay still. But
wow.
But we got through it. It was a fairly big hit, especially around the world. There was an Asian ball player in it, which helped in Japan and so on to get people to watch the movie. So actually, it did very well globally. Not as well in the States, and it's not as good a movie. The script is not as good. David didn't write the whole script. I think he tried to punch it up, and of course, Bob would ad-lib some lines every once in a while, which were golden, and they would invariably keep. And they're just as funny to me, even though I'm the brunt of the joke. They're just as funny to me, and I can't burst out laughing in the middle of it. So acting, and just go with it. But I've got fans, from around the world from that. Even though I've been in the trenches performing music and/or comedy for 61 years now, those 2 weekends, that's what everybody knows me for. They don't know. I played an ineffectual guy, and I'm a superb performing artist, but I got to play somebody who can't do anything. So it was a little bit of a challenge. But anyway, so overall, great experience. Bob was tremendous. they would rewrite a whole speech that he had to give and hand it to him right before the shoot, and he looked down, he'd read it for a little bit, so okay, and then he would nail it. I mean, he was so sharp, so fast, and very nice to me. And the first one, especially, we had a little more downtime, and we would go to an adjacent broadcast booth, and he would relay his famous baseball stories to me, one-on-one. So I'm making my first movie, and Bob Uecker is telling me baseball stories right next to me. I must be black and blue from pinching myself.
Yeah.
Crazy good.
So Skip, you touch on a bunch of things that I want to ask you about.
Okay,
so
sure.
How crazy is it that your original audition was for a player? I wonder what they saw in you where they were like, wow, you know what? Not for this part, but Jesus, he's perfect. And I think you're really hard on yourself, Skip, because this doesn't work without you. Like,
really?
Uke was fantastic. Of course it doesn't.
Really?
Like, I mean, I was rewatching both. Like, you're setting him up. Like, without the setup, it's the team that people love, like the fact that your character says minimal things, but when he does say something, you're all ears. You're listening to it. So,
right.
Like, you can't have one without the other.
Well, that's very nice of you. Thank you.
Yeah, Uke is phenomenal, and we're gonna get to him. But like, I just think you're kind of hard on yourself in that regard. I don't.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, and I really wasn't well at all for that first one, and I wasn't sure. God, what am I doing? But it looks. I think it looks. I did an even better job in Major League One than I did in 2 when I was healthy. I mean, that's crazy.
Right.
When I kind of knew what I was doing, maybe it wasn't as I can't think of the term now. Free. It wasn't as free and spontaneous.
Right.
Because it was too measured and thought out. Whereas in the first one, I'll just do this and react and without.
There's also different people involved with the second one, right? There's some other people that were with the
first
one.
Another different producers, different studio. I think the first one was Paramount. The second one was Warner Brothers, perhaps.
Yeah.
I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And I'd go visit Uecker once in a while at Wrigley Field in Chicago when he'd come there to do the play-by-play for the Brewers, and we'd have a great time. One of the last times I saw him, he had done a movie that was not part of the franchise called Major League Back to the Minors.
Oh, okay.
He wasn't going to do it, but they threw so much money at him. He said, well, okay.
Yeah, you have to, yeah.
And so he was venting when I saw him. He said, that movie sucked. It fucking sucked. It fucking sucked. And he just kept saying that. He was so pissed that he had done it. He said they didn't know at all what they were doing, the production company. They knew nothing about baseball. They're doing a baseball movie. They don't know anything about it.
Yeah,
he said it was just terrible. But, he took the money. And if there would ever have been another major league, that would be Major League 3. And then we almost had one 10 years ago, whenever. And then Charlie Sheen had his meltdown. Charlie Sheen would have been the star of the movie. And then he had his cocaine period when what was his phrase he kept saying?
Winning.
Yeah. Exactly.
I guess. Yeah.
That was the end. Yeah.
When was the last time you saw Bob Uecker? When's the last time you saw him?
I was trying to think of that. It's been a little while, several years. Anyway, I keep meaning to visit him to go up in Milwaukee. My wife has never met him. I used to go with a friend of mine, and we never, things come up. We just never got around to it, and now he's gone. So
yeah.
But it has been a while, but every time it was good. It was just great to see him, and he's always funny and got that energy.
Yeah, it's funny. I hear you talking about the stories of him because Norm Macdonald, the late Norm Macdonald, and Artie Lang went to go visit him a few times, and they tell stories about him that are unbelievable. But he was, I guess, off the mic, and this kind of goes with the stories. He was super filthy with like the F, but that's just who he is. Like I should say filthy. He just he enjoyed partake.
He would swear. Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
he would swear. So
Sure.
yeah, they said he was unbelievably funny with his stories. And
Yep.
you mentioned pitching yourself, so you must have been open to a lot of that too. You had to hear a lot of that.
Yes, it was great. Got nothing but good things to say about him. You know, he was professional about his job. He's very kind to me. What more could I ask for?
Yeah. You know, it's funny because it definitely is. The Major League is the adult Bad News Bears, right? And
You could say that. I've heard people compare it to different things.
yeah.
The storyline Slapshot.
Oh, okay. I see it.
I haven't seen that in ages, and I don't remember, but it might have had something to do with the owner trying to sell I think that was the connection, maybe.
That's right. Yeah, I never thought about that.
Yeah, that's what people used to tell me back in the day. Oh, that's kind of Slapshot only for baseball. Well, okay, I didn't really know the other movie very well, but I don't know what else you'd compare it to, but
super quotable. Like the fact that it's over 30 years old and people are quoting this movie. It's
still do
I don't think. I mean, certainly top 5 sports movie. Supremely quotable.
Yeah.
Like this movie has really touched a nerve with people, and it's affecting multiple generations, which is the best thing a movie can do. If you could do that, you are a classic, 100%.
How about I just did an interview with some on I think it was Sirius Major League Baseball Network.
Yeah.
And those guys I forget what they said. We said that they're very young, but they said that we grew up with that. That is our Bible. You know, like we couldn't even tell you how much that movie means to us, and they're 2 generations, later or whatever. I'm not good at this generational stuff, but even the young people.
Yeah.
So we couldn't have possibly imagined that 30 years later there'd be this interest in it. Couldn't possibly imagine, even while we're filming it. It's like, okay, well, that's funny to us, but that's no guarantee.
Yeah.
And you got to give a lot of credit to David S. Ward, because most of those lines are his, and certainly the story. As I say, Bob added a few lines here and there that were great, but the just a little bit outside was that's David, and a lot of them. So and the character. So I got to give a lot of credit to David S. Ward, because that's his baby.
What kind of guy do you think Monty is? Like, so I'm going to ask you like a nerdy character question. What kind of guy off the field, if you had to kind of put a backstory to them from your years in drama school?
Wow, I have never been asked that. So Darek, you're putting me on the spot here. Let's see what I can make up here. Let's see.
I think he's a good guy.
I think he's a good guy. He's an earnest guy.
Yes.
Who wants to do the right thing. He's a little intimidated. He's respectful of the other people. The rest of his home life, boy, that's a good question. I'll be ready for the next interview if I ever get that one again. So you're getting me ready for the next guy. Unfortunately, I don't have much for you right now.
Yeah, that's okay. What were your conversations off camera with Bob? Were they hilarious? I mean, you mentioned that, like I said, the pinching and you couldn't believe it. But like, did you find yourself just like laughing at his stories? Did you find yourself just intrigued because he's one hell of a storyteller?
Absolutely, the best sports storyteller, and he's got a million of them. And I don't know, when we were on set, it was kind of business. It was doing the business. If we had some time together off set, then we could get into that stuff. But he had a job to do, and he was, he's carrying those scenes. I'm just there, a little something to bounce off, but he's got a lot of dialogue that he had to memorize. And as I say, they would change it on him, and he'd have to rememorize it very quickly, which I like, wow, I couldn't do that. I'd blow it 2 or 3 times, and he would, boop, no problem. But as far as kind of a guy, well, in many ways, he's a real guy, down to earth, no bullshit. He's not. There's nothing fake about him. There's nothing. He's not going to try to snow you about anything, or. He's just real. He's kind. He's got incredible energy, and I guess he's always had that sense of humor since he was a teenager, from what I hear. Always had it, and he found a great outlet for it. Johnny Carson had him on 100 times, I understand.
Wow.
And that was after, he was a somewhat successful catcher, not a great hitter, and he was on a championship team. So he's a real ball player. Now, he does a lot of jokes about.
He's a Hall of Famer. I mean, how can you what I'm saying? You're right, Skip.
Is he a Hall of Famer for baseball or for broadcasting?
Probably for broadcasting, but I feel like they consider the playing part too. I feel like that sometimes that goes into consideration. Yeah,
okay,
I think
all right,
so,
yeah. He could play. I don't know what else. Other insights. It's not like I'm a close friend of his.
No, I got you. Got you. Yes.
It's not like we would. Hey, let's go out to eat tonight and whatever. It's not like that. It was a professional relationship, and then I'd visit him once in a while in the years subsequent. So it wasn't a close friendship. It was a business friendship, not too unlike. Well, I was a little closer to Olivia. I spent a lot of time with her, so I'd have to say we were closer friends. But it's a great business relationship, and when it works, and when you're apart, and it becomes this big hit movie, I mean, it just adds to the relationship. Had it failed, had it fucking sucked, as he would say, then you'd forget. Probably forget about the whole thing.
Yeah.
But because it was so successful, and still is so successful, it's just crazy. I mean, I don't know that anybody does a baseball broadcast anymore without saying at some point, just a little bit outside, or I even hear that on basketball, any sport they'll use that. It doesn't have to be baseball with a pitch, it can be anything. I mean, phenomenal.
Yeah.
Now there are other movies that are more artsy, I mean, I wasn't a big fan of Field of Dreams. I know a lot of people are. I thought it was kind of humorless and boring. There are other great movies that I like. Which, of course, I cannot think of right now. What's previous to that? There was.
Did you like The Natural? Did you like
The Natural? Phenomenal.
Yeah, me too. I agree.
Great movie. Yeah. And what's the one with Tim Matheson and
Bull Durham? You mean Bull Durham?
Bull Durham. Another really fine movie.
Yeah.
And of course, you could go back to the 40s and Lou Gehrig's story and all that. And those were nice.
Yeah.
And I think William Bendix played Babe Ruth in a movie. You're a little young, but he was a heavy set actor. Babe Ruth was tall. He was a big boy, Babe Ruth.
Yeah, big guy.
Yeah. And William Bendix, not that big, but he had a lot of girth, and I think played it pretty well. But I'm just proud to have been part of it, and it's very nice when people remember it and acknowledge me. And I'm a small part of it, but a memorable part. There's a lot of people that have a lot of lines that you don't remember.
Yeah.
But Colorman was so unique that people remember it, and that it, as you say, it helped Uke be a little funnier by having a foil next to him. So
yeah, and I'm going to double back to that. It's funny because you're mentioning a lot of these quotes. And I was just preparing for our interview, and I saw one that I use a lot, where Harris is having this conversation, and he says, "Are you trying to say Jesus Christ can't hit a curveball?" I couldn't stop laughing. It's one of the best lines. That's the best line.
It is. That's Chelsea Ross, who lives in the Chicago area,
who's in Hoosiers.
Yes, and so many things.
Yeah.
2-3 years ago, we did one of those expos in Parsippany, New Jersey, the Chiller Expo. So there was Tom Berenger, Corbin Burnson, Chelsea, and myself.
Yeah.
And I got to meet a lot of fans of the movie, and that was just awesome. Everybody wanted an autograph or picture taken, or it was just great. There are people they'll say, "You know what? You have no idea how big this is meeting you. I've watched you in that movie 100 times. I can barely believe that I'm actually seeing you." Just touches the heart.
Yeah, that's sweet.
Really does. Sweet. They were all so nice, and that was an awesome thing. They've been trying to get Uecker to do it, and I don't think he needs the money, and it never worked out. But that would have been nice, to do one of those expos with him, sitting next to him, signing autographs and stuff. But
Skip, I was at one of those, and I interviewed Tom Berenger.
Oh,
and all he kept talking about, like, he was such a great guy. Let me just add that. Like, most people, like, who you with, or like he was so accepting, and he just wanted to talk history and American history. Like, I didn't realize how much of a history buff he was. Like, he was, oh my God, like his level of knowledge is unbelievable. Wow. Yeah.
Interesting.
I wanted to loop back to talking about the team concept of both you and you, because I rewatched both movies, Know We're Going to Speak, and I watched the first one a lot just as a rewatchable. But, it's just the little things, like Dynamite Drop In, Monty, like those little things. Like I
think that was an ad lib that he'd suggest, or at least he suggested it during filming. I don't think that was in the script. That was one of the ones that he just created.
Oh, I love
Dynamite
that.
Drop In. Yeah.
Let me throw a few more at you. And he said, Haywood's a convicted felon, isn't he, Monty? And then you're fumbling through the paperwork. Doesn't say it here, but like that's what I'm saying. Those little moments. I don't care what the script says, Skip. Like, you created that with Bob. Like, you guys were this, and I'm not trying to glaze. I'm just being honest. Like, it's worked so well. Like, and I've watched this movie a million times.
Oh, thank you.
Many others, but dude, it's just a great team. Like, I love you, but it's the two of you. It's not just you and the other.
Thank you. That's very nice of you to say it. I had enough acting experience at that point. I had my degree in theater to know to play, to not compete with him. I knew my character. Well, it's a bit underwritten, and of course, the joke is he doesn't say much. But as confident as he was, I kind of decided, well, let's play it a little unsure.
Yeah.
I didn't like playing it dumb so much. Although he's not Monty is not really socially adept. He's not smooth. He's definitely
not dumb either, though, Skip. Monty's not dumb. Yeah,
not dumb. But he's not comfortable taking the spotlight.
Yeah.
And so I kind of played it like that, and I just be the opposite of what Bob is, and it worked.
Yeah.
That makes chemistry.
Yeah. Two other quick lines I want to run. I have a few more questions. And thank you for all this time, Skip. You've been so kind. Thank you.
Well, I do have that orgy with the Olsen twins, and about 9:00. We got time, Chicago time. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
Another great moment with you and Bob is when you're like listening to those fans behind Vaughn, and the two of you are like going like yeah. You the microphone,
right?
I listened to those fans. Like, it was just like another great moment. Like, Skip, it was just so fun to see.
Oh,
God. My favorite one between the two of you.
Okay.
When he says, "Monty, anything to add?" No. He's not the best color man in the league for nothing, folks.
Now,
dude, there's just so many.
I think he's not the best color man in the business for nothing. That's Bob. Bob added that line, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
But anything to add, Monty? Originally, it was written. There was notes for me to do Monty kind of staccato, like say just no, and I didn't feel it, and I got to go with my instinct unless somebody says no. So I made it like, well, let me think. No, just so more real and I think more funny.
Yeah. Great. You have a great moment where that last game, the stress gets to you so much where he just chugs the bottle. That's another great. Yeah, I don't know, man. I could go on and on, but it's so great.
I had to campaign to have, I had a bag that I was breathing into. I can't remember one or two that so I'm breathing in and out of a band. I had to campaign to keep that in the scene, in the subsequent scenes, that it's still there, that he still needs it. I thought that made more sense than just to have it in one scene and then just disappear.
Yeah.
So I never actually used it again, but I think it was still there just to establish that he's still not relaxed, still worried.
Skip, did you take a lot of memorabilia? Because I think it's really cool that you have your own trailer or like your chair. Even I read something where you had your own stand-in, which I thought was really cool.
Yes.
Yeah. How cool is that?
I had one of those real Hollywood chairs, and I had a real stand-in, and I couldn't tell you who that person was. I feel bad about that, but that was kind of nice. Your own trailer, dressing room, and
jeez,
like a big shot actor. So pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I was. As I say, the first one was extremely pleasant, Second one, the director was so ornery, it wasn't that great.
Yeah.
But the movie came out okay.
Yeah,
But
I didn't hate the second one. You know what? I have one major issue with the second one.
Okay.
I wish they either, like I said, Willie Mays Hayes is retired. He's been traded
some
away.
acknowledgement.
Yeah, but like to replace him completely with a different actor, Omar Epps, is insane. Like Wesley Snipes, I'm guessing it's a money issue. Whatever, he doesn't come back.
He had become so big, he didn't want to. He thought that was beneath him. By the 5 years later after this movie, which made him.
That's insanity.
That movie made him.
100%.
And then he became too big. Well, I don't want to bother with that. And he did some kind of. Then he was an action figure hero and just didn't want to. Bother with us peons.
You just can't replace it with another actor and say, "Hey, we're good to go."
Yeah,
like,
and he was still good.
Yes, Omar Epps was great in the second.
Oh no,
one.
but he's fine.
Yeah,
but Wesley Snipes killed it.
Yeah, killed it.
Absolutely killed it. Yeah,
killed it. But I did like too. And I thought you and Bob had a lot of if we're gonna pick out moments, I thought you and Bob still work in the second one. And that's.
I think so too. I think you're right. Yeah, just the rest of the movie around us wasn't as compelling. And when the first one tells the story, it's hard to go back. Any sequel, there aren't many sequels that I can think of that are in league with the first one.
Right.
Godfather 2 is one that comes to mind immediately that I think is maybe even better than Godfather 1. That's a rarity. Most sequels are just kind of cashing in on the success of the first one, and this just wasn't fleshed out. The script just wasn't completely fleshed out as it might have been had David Ward been in total control of it.
Right.
He spruced it up a little bit, but I believe it was mostly somebody else's script. So that's the problem there.
Yeah, the casting's perfect. The writing is perfect.
Yeah.
There's. I wanted to ask you this. So I swear, this line was in the trailer because I was 16 when I went to go see this movie.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. And there's a line that I saw in the trailer, but it wasn't in the movie. I think it's either Uecker. No, maybe it's not Uecker. It's maybe Charlie Sheen talking to maybe Tom Berenger, where he says that ball wouldn't have been out of most parks. He's like, well, name one. He goes, Yellowstone. Like that line was in. I'm like, that's such a
that's
genius.
right.
Like, why was that line not in the main movie? That's a great line.
Good question. I think I remember seeing that too. Like, where was that line? But must have gotten cut from the time they made the trailer to the release of the movie. They must have figured at some point they needed to shorten it for, the length of time is so important for the flow of any project. And sometimes you cut what in themselves is a really good thing. Doesn't mean it actually adds to the movie.
Right.
That happens in stuff I do. I do one-man shows about the history of rock and roll. And I have lots of information in there. And there were things that, I'd really like to add that, but, that's too much there. I don't want to lose them. I want to keep the energy going, whatever. It's the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
The total is what, is what matters. Individual thing might have to get by the wayside if it doesn't contribute to the plot and so on. What was another, I had stuff that was on the cutting room floor from Major League, particularly the first one. That I thought they might have used, but I think they selected the best stuff. The one the scene where I take over the mic, where Harry Doyle passes out, that went on longer, so that got cut a bit. But there was enough to suggest, to get the gist of the comedy out of it.
You know why you guys are so great? Well, there's a lot of reasons why you guys are great, but you absolutely are right. Like if you go to any market, they all have a color man that was like this, like you, and then somebody that's like Bob's character, here, and it's like. It's almost the same way the Anchorman kind of puts a spotlight on the local news, where people are ridiculously maybe they're not dumb, but they sure act dumb on you look at the weatherman Brick Tamlin, he was ridiculously if it's not on the prompter, they don't understand it. They can't.
Yeah.
So it's a similar comparison of a character study.
Sweet Brick.
Yes.
Saturday Night Live did a sketch that was obviously based on us, with was it Jason Sudeikis and who played the color man type, and now I can't think of his name. He's done a lot of stuff, but I thought, I wonder where they got that idea. And I've seen it in a few different places where they're clearly trying to emulate that. And I think they tried a little bit in Back to the Minors. And I didn't see the movie, but I heard it. It just didn't work at all.
Yeah, it wasn't anywhere near the quality of one or even two for that matter. Let me ask you, Skip, on a side note, whatever happened? Because I was going to ask you about your one man show.
Yeah.
I talked about this because I interview composers too, and I asked one of them this question: what the hell has happened to rock and roll? I feel like, and I always sound like the old man for this, like my generation, I feel like the 70s, 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s had some grunge. I feel like after grunge approaching 2000, rock and roll is poof. There's nothing. There's not much of anything. What the hell happened, Skip?
A gradual deterioration, and you could prove it. There's a great guy online, I can't remember his name, and he does an actual dissertation where in strict musical terms, he can prove it, not just opinion, but here, look how this is inferior to what used to be. I think the 70s was the last great decade of music. The 80s was good. The 90s were okay.
I agree.
And since then, occasionally there's a tune I can kind of get into. But I think the problem is that people are not, as we're losing music education in a lot of places, a lot of people not hearing anything any more sophisticated musically and harmonically than rap.
Right.
They don't know anything better. And they think they're being creative by let's dumb that down a little bit more so I can get a hit record. So it's like a constant dumbing down process to fit within, the rap cred or rock and roll cred or whatever. And I keep waiting for it to like circle back and on the incline, but no, it's really bad. There's an occasional tune that I would really like Rehab from the late great, the British singer with the makeup on the eyes and the
Amy Winehouse.
Amy Winehouse.
Yeah,
a pretty fine talent, really.
Yeah, I agree.
And that tune was awesome. And occasionally I'll hear one of those, not very often. Yeah. So it's unfortunate, but the kids don't know any better. They're not hearing anything else. They're not hearing any classical music. They're not hearing jazz. They're not hearing anything that has more sophisticated melodic and harmonic content. And so they can't appreciate anything that. So these three major record companies or whatever, they don't give a crap about quality. They want to reach the most people and sell the most records. So the lowest common denominator is what they're doing now, and it's not good, and it's too bad.
Skip, I still have a Led Zeppelin box set, and I'm gonna tell you, that is the most. I mean, I'm more of a now. I most of this to movie scores and that type of music, but man, Led Zeppelin, boy, did they have it! They had everything. They're just. Acoustic. I
agree.
It's just
they stole a little too much stuff without giving credit.
From Robert Johnson,
and others,
yeah.
Kind of like, you should have given credit on that one, but
yeah.
And when I played with Olivia in Stockholm, Sweden, and we wound up staying at the same hotel, and I'm in the lounge, and their road crew is heckling the poor pianist there who's trying to do the best, and the road crew is going, and they're drunk, of course. Play more rubbish. Play more rubbish. And so they came to our show, and we met them before the show. And I walked up to the drummer, Jason. Not Jason. I can't think of his name. It's been so long. John Bonham.
John Bonham. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just told him, I said, me and everybody else I know think you're the best. So, and he didn't live long.
No, he died young. Yeah.
Yeah, but I got to tell him that because the sound of his drums, what he was playing. And of course, Jimmy Page was a superb guitar player, could play, most anything. And they're just great musicians. And that Robert Plant's voice was so unique. I mean, Hart made a career out of Ann Wilson copying Robert Plant's voice, on their tune. So
David Coverdale too.
I don't know him. I don't know him.
Yeah, he sounded just like Plant.
Oh yeah?
Like yeah.
So I do several shows. I do a Beatles show. I do a Roy Orbison and the Rockabilly Heroes. Roy is one of my best voices that I do, but I do hundreds. I do the voices for everything in my shows. I do them all, And my guitar generally is the only accompaniment. Occasionally I use a trio. I will not use any tracks. I hate that. When I go to see a live band, I don't want to hear recordings that they're playing to.
Right.
As a purist, I grew up where we wouldn't think of that. None of these original artists would have thought of doing that. And now people everywhere are barely playing. And the people in the audiences, because they're so unsophisticated now musically, they don't even know. And they don't care. They think this band is doing it. I remember once I went to see, now I had opened for Dion DiMucci in 1971 at the Bitter End in Greenwich Village. Now Dion had a big hits in the late 50s, early 60s. You might know The Wonder. I'm the kind of guy who likes to roam around. Anyway, a lot of great rock hits. And at the Bitter End, he was just solo with acoustic guitar, and he was this great finger picking, and he sang great, everything from folk songs to Abraham Martin and John, which is his most recent hit, and his old doo-wop classics, everything. And I saw him, let's see, how many years later would this be? 30 years later, and he's playing at the Holiday Star in Indiana. Excuse me. He's got a 4-piece band, and they're playing along to pre-recorded tracks. And I'm in the audience just screaming, wait a minute. You were phenomenal, just you and a guitar. And you think you've got to use tracks to get over to people?
Yeah.
Where's his integrity? And it's not like the background parts are hard in those songs. It's hip, hip, bum dee 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 hip. Your grandma could sing those parts, And he had to have them on track. It was very disappointing. That bugs me a lot when people get up there and it's not all live. Olivia would have never used tracks.
Yeah, I believe it.
And yet people are doing imitations of her and using tracks to add to the, it just drives me crazy.
You know what's even more painful than that, Skip, is have you seen Frankie Valli the last year or two, what they've been doing
I
with him?
saw, not in person. No, I saw the video, and he looks
the videos, yeah.
He looks like a deer in headlights who cannot even move. He looks like he's like a mannequin that they rolled out.
He's like those animatronic like animals that you see like Chuck E. Cheese, like it moves and he's looking off in the distance. Like, who is making money off this poor man?
I don't know.
What are we doing?
Barely moving at all.
Barely moving.
And I'm told that he's singing to his voice on recording. So he's not even singing live. I thought, what a ripoff.
But Skip, he's not even close. Like he's like the music is playing, and he might be getting every sixth or seventh word. Like, it's bad. It's bad. It's bad. And Frankie Valli had some great songs. Was his Notorious? He was in Godfather, I think. Wasn't he one of those Godfather movies? I thought. I don't know.
Oh, he might have been. I have to think about that. I think maybe Godfather 3. Good question.
Wait, no, let me walk that back. He was not. He was in Sopranos. I just.
Oh yeah.
I got to walk that back. That's on me.
Right, sure. No, that's I remember that now. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't get it.
But he in his prime, so good.
So good. Yeah.
I do a bit on him where I talk about how great his I have a great falsetto, and I do a bit about how I love everybody loves it. Well, except for one time in 1963, and he go, oh, hold on. I hope this is tuned up. Oop. So it's, walk like a man, talk like a man, talk like a man, my son. Are you kidding me? Talk like a man? Is that good advice?
No.
For a Jersey boy?
No.
You get your ass kicked.
Yeah. But dude, I'm so happy you love Roy Orbison, because my late father loved Roy Orbison.
Oh, and the best, most lyrical voice ever. He added opera to rockabilly.
Yeah, that's a good way of saying
it. Are you hinting that you want me to do a little Roy? Is that what you're...
Well, you can if you like, but I really love the Traveling Wilburys as well. I don't know how you feel about them. You are super talented. I didn't realize how musically... I mean, I knew you were musically inclined, but my God, you're good.
Yes, I am. Yes, I've been doing this a long time. Let's see. This is the guitar that I'm working on because it's got
beautiful guitar.
Looks better than it sounds. Let's see. Pretty woman walking down the street. Pretty woman, the kind I like to meet. Pretty woman, I don't believe you. You're not the truth.
Wow.
No one could look as good as you. Mercy.
Skip, holy shit, you are good. Oh my God.
Thank you.
Wow.
And I'm playing a guitar that's completely...
And it sounds great. I mean, I get it. It's not tuned, but my God, it's wow. Wow.
Thank you. This is what I do. This is what I've been doing in the trenches for 61 years. That's, I have a great talent. That's why it was difficult for me to play someone ineffectual.
Yes.
Like Monty.
Yes.
Couldn't do anything. And here I'm this guy that's got phenomenal talents. No, people don't know about it. They just think of me the guy that can't do anything up there. But
no, you're more than that.
Well, thanks.
Do you still tour? Do you still do your own
I
show?
am doing it. I just did, let's see. I'm doing one tomorrow afternoon. I'm doing the 50s, 60s, and 70s heroes of rock. So I'm starting in 1952 with Alabamian Hank Williams as King of Country, as rock and being a kind of amalgam of a number of things, mostly country and western and rhythm and blues.
Right.
So I do Hank Williams, and then I do Big Joe Turner with Shake, Rattle, and Roll, and go in chronological order until the Eagles in 1979. And I do all that I can squeeze into an hour. Although last week I did a complete 2-set show, the same kind of show, only with 2 sets. So yeah, I've got lots of shows. If you look at my website, I've got 7 different ones, and I can combine a couple of them. And I have a trio that does all Beatles stuff. I have a trio that does the Roy Orbison that I just did for you, and other rockabilly stars. So
Skip, how can people contact you, like on Facebook, if they want not contact you, but if they want to go to a show, like how do they find out your
go to
dates
my website. Go to skipgriparis.com.
Okay.
And there will be a schedule there of the shows the for public. I don't publicize the ones that are for private groups, but
Sure.
ones open to the public will be on there. And my background, and there's be a few videos of highlight reel, sizzle reel of my shows, and they can learn that way.
Yeah,
they can also contact me through my website if they wish, unless they don't like me. Then I prefer that they didn't.
Well, I got to tell you, man, thank you for this. Like, I am so and thank you for just touching my movie core with your performance in both movies, and you've been so great. Yeah,
you're very kind. I appreciate it, Darek.
Yeah, and I'm so glad to be able to learn about your musical interest. It's just so great. This is why I love doing these interviews. It's so much fun.
Well, you do it very well, which is why I'm doing it. Otherwise, I looked down and said, "Oh, that guy's a professional." Okay, I'll do it.
No, thank you, Skip. Skip,
right,
I appreciate it.
Next time.
Yep, absolutely. Anytime. Thank
All
you
right.
for this.
Thank you.